Now I'm audible. Okay. So, very good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Vigyan Prasad, I, Sabyasachi Bharti, welcome you all in the first master class of 10th National Science Film Festival of India. Today, we are glad that we have with us Shri Nimish Kapoorji and Shri Abhijit Dasgupta ji. I will now request Shri Nimish Kapoorji, who is the convener of the 10th National Science Film Festival of India, to introduce Sri Abhijit Dasgupta ji, and we can take care of the masterclass thereon. Sri Nimish, sir.
Thank you. Am I audible? Welcome, Abhijit sir, and it's my pleasure to introduce you. Abhijit Dasgupta ji has been associated with news since the early 60s and with television from early 70s. He is an alumnus of FTII Pune. He was also trained at the BBC London, AIBT Malaysia, NDR Germany, and ABC Australia. He took voluntary retirement from Doordarshan as a station director. He was the bureau chief of Worldwide Television News, WTN, and production in charge of ESPN. Abhijit ji was the production head of NDTV and Aaj Tak for their election telecast. Abhijit ji was the youngest war correspondent to cover the Bangladesh Freedom War. He is the national coordinator for India and a past board member of Input, International Public Television. Input is the largest TV organization of the world. He has received 2 national and 28 international awards for best documentary films. Abhijit ji was invited by UNESCO to give a lecture in Sao Paulo on visual communications. Abhijit ji is the secretary of the Kolkata Sukriti Foundation, a registered not-for-profit organization that uses television as a tool to reach its target with socially purposeful issues. He is also the trustee of Shri Dasgupta Breast Cancer Trust, a registered organization that fully supports BPL women suffering from breast cancer. Abhijit is former Dean Electronic and Digital Media of the Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute, Kolkata. एक बहुत विशाल अनुभव, एक बड़ा अनुभव के साथ में सर आज हम आपको सुनने जा रहे हैं एंड इट्स आवर प्लेजर टू लिसन यू सर प्लीज. अभिजीत, ये मैं चाहूंगा कि आप सभ्यता जी आप सब्जेक्ट को इंट्रोड्यूस करें, उसके बाद हम सर को सुनेंगे.
Thank you, Nimish. As we know that today we are going to discuss about roles of science in media and media in science by Sri Abhijit Dasgupta ji. As we know that science communication is very necessary for developing a scientific temper in the country, and that's why Vigyan Prasad is working day and night. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I will request Dasgupta sir to let us know what is the role of science in media, and then how science is depicted in media, because for developing a scientific temper, a scientific bend of mind is very necessary. And as the films play a key role in developing a scientific temper in the country, through the for the general people. So it will be nice to understand how these the science and media can go hand in hand, and how media can depict the science in such a way so that the general people can understand this difficult subject. You unmute me. Sir, can you unmute the mic from your side?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. If I'm audible, I'll continue. Right.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, thank you very much. Media, is a part of communication, and communication, it comes from the word communis, meaning something that is common. A scientist works in the laboratory. He is basically a philosopher who thinks scientifically, and therefore he is not really abreast of the latest communication technology. It is a role of the media to take the scientist to the open platform where he can share his ideas, his vision, and his mission, and he can explain in a way that a common person can understand without using any scientific jargon. I'll explain. I'll take you through a PowerPoint presentation. Let me try and see if I can get it. As I said, media in science and science and media must handhold. And unless they can handhold, a scientist will remain in the laboratory and media will remain in the open without any substance. Therefore, it is necessary for each other. We have to understand that we are all interconnected, and therefore we are part of the one. We are one, and therefore it is extremely necessary for us to use and handhold each other and take to a platform where we can reach the common mass. Now, if you go to a scientist, he usually uses languages and symbols which a normal person might find it very, very difficult. In fact, a normal person who is not scientifically minded might even run away from it. So, what is the solution? I think I'll start from the beginning. The beginning is something that is here in the Indian history. Siraj-Dowla's army with 50,000 soldiers, 40 cannons, and 10 war elephants was defeated by 3,000 soldiers of Colonel Robert Clive. The battle ended in 11 hours. This we all have read in school. But we have to now scientifically think what went wrong. Was it lack of motivation and training? Was it due to the sycophants? Or was it leadership and greed? Now, question is, if you study the whole thing in a very scientific bent of mind, you will come across something which is known as strategy. What exactly is strategy? For everything, you need a strategy. In management terms, strategy is something that takes you to a place and takes you to your goal. But before that, before we reach our goal, we have to again look back why it happened. Why it happened that we in India are blissfully unaware of our glorious past. The British came to loot, and I'll use the word very empathetically, they came to loot. The British came and our economy reduced from 22% to 2%. What happened thereafter was that their economy led to the industrial revolution. They became the first industrial nation. And this created bankruptcy. Bankruptcy not only in economic terms, but bankruptcy in our thinking process. And unless we can think, that 5-letter word in English, THINK, unless we can use the word properly, we are just about nowhere. It is extremely important that we think. The British did something else. They created a special class of people called the Babus. Lord Babington Macaulay, he drafted the Indian Penal Code in 1860. Now, and he also created a class of people who he said would be sycophants, yes men, and flatterers. And he wanted to create a class of people who would be just translators, who wouldn't ask questions. They will just about listen to everything, mug up everything, and that's about it. So what happened was, we stopped the power to think again. And because we stopped the power to think, we stopped creating. And then, where is the role of the media? The media comes in to take that to the public. Knowing all that, Rabindranath Tagore wrote Tota Kahani and protested. There's a link on YouTube. If you find time, please go to the link and watch this Tota Kahani. So, another British, his name is I forget his name suddenly. Anyway, he muzzled the media. And incidentally, in it also, Lord Macaulay was a part of it. Lord Lytton, the Viceroy of India, unanimously passed this resolution where the media was muzzled. Now, how do you muzzle the media? We communicate very freely in local language. Now, if you can control the vernacular press, you control the media. Not everyone in India were English literate, and therefore they didn't fear English. And, overnight, certain Bengali newspapers had to switch over to English. And then this Sedition Act came into being. And guess some of the people who were booked under the Sedition Act. You'll be surprised to know that both Gandhiji and Sri Aurobindo were booked and charged with sedition. This lady here, Elizabeth Margaret Noble, who later came to be known as Sister Nivedita, we don't know much about her. She stood up and she said, we had a universities commission lately which had done its very best to kill all education, especially science education. This is the point in India's wrongs that fires me. The right of India to be India, the right of India to think for herself, the right of India to knowledge. Some of you might know that Swami Vivekananda actually induced her to come to India. And she was instrumental in this, what you see on the bottom right-hand corner. the Indian Institute of Science. Swamiji met Jamshedji Tata on board a ship, and Jamshedji was going to get the steel technology into India. The Swamiji told him, look, just getting the technology won't do. Get the whole gamut of the knowledge, transfer the knowledge of making steel into India. And that resulted in the Tata Iron and Steel Factory. And you know what? Jamshedji Tata, because of Swamiji's communication skills and managerial ability, wanted him to lead the Indian Institute of Science. And Swami said, the Indian contribution to science and arts was outstanding. Aryabhatta in astronomy, Bhaskaraya and his daughter Lilavati in mathematics, Sushruta and Chanakya in medicine are a few geniuses whose contributions are still remembered. Even today, scholars are trying to figure out how the genius of Indian mind discovered the natural laws and facts centuries before West could. And because of Swamiji and Sister Nivedita, certain unique things happened. Sir Jagadish Chandra Bose in 1904 received the US patent for radio waves. And Bosheshwar Sen created a revolution in the field of agriculture, which today is the Indian Institute of Agricultural Sciences. I had the opportunity of meeting Sam Pitroda. He was then the chairman of the Knowledge Commission, and he said education system still primitive. Well, he was responsible for it, wasn't he? If it was primitive, why didn't he change it? And John Jost, who is a renowned filmmaker, said that learn by rote or memorization. Don't think but cough off the right answer has led to a disaster. And when he said disaster, what exactly is a disaster? The disaster is this. We have not only educated our people, we have not communicated or motivated the young. The result is this. In 2016, some 19,000 graduates applied for 114 vacancies for sweepers in Almora, Uttar Pradesh. Many of these were PhDs and MBA holders. There just aren't enough white-collar jobs in India for the country's graduates. So increasingly, Indians fresh out of college with bachelor's degree are looking for blue-collar jobs. Some 40% of those eyeing profiles, such as office assistants, drivers, bartenders, maids, and mechanics were graduates. According to data analyzed in September by hiring platform Quicker Job, which has about 7 million active job seekers registered with it. Over 80% of India's engineering graduates are unemployable. It's the same story for postgraduates. Almost 93% of MBAs unfit for job. Now the question is, where are we going and why is this happening? It is happening because we have 72% below 40 years. 10% of our population is an Indian below 25 years and 40% below 20 years. And this young generation is different. This young generation, we are not in sync with this generation. Teachers must accept the era of non-critical devotion is over. The student will not pay respect unless you deserve the regard, unless you deserve that respect. Now, who for? This is a very big question for media and even for science. Who are you doing it for? You are obviously doing it for today and our future. Now, our future would be the children and the youth. Take, for instance, the program code of All India Radio and Doordarshan, the public service broadcasters of India. They have something, a law, which is followed in letters, not in spirit. Children up to a certain age only participate in a children's program. Youth up to a certain age only participate in the youth program. We forget it is not by the children or by the youth, it is for the children and for the youth. The most popular programs are Mr. Rogers for Children or Sesame Street. Children love to do this. I'm not sure if they love this or this. And therefore, we have a role to play. And in a country which is orthodox, which hasn't moved with the contemporary world around, which has failed to see the movement around the world, we have suffered. For several years, beginning in 1952, All India Radio stopped broadcasting film music because the then Minister of Information Broadcasting, B.V. Kesker, believed film songs had become vulgar, erotic, and westernized. After the AIR ban on Hindi film music, Radio Ceylon came up. Incidentally, Radio Ceylon was the idea of an American who was Bombay-based. And I remember when I was young, on Wednesday evening, we used to hear something called the Binaka Geetmala. It was very popular. Whereas we stopped, Ceylon took over, and they conquered the young of India. What is not taught and what is ignored, and that is very much a science. And it is there in the Harvard Business School's book on effective communication. And Harvard Business School has quoted this particular gentleman on the right, Swami Vivekananda. Harvard Business Review says the effectiveness of a spoken word hinges not so much on how people talk, but mostly on how they listen. The ears are the most vital. Hearing and listening are two different things. In our schools, we don't teach them to hear. We teach them something where we expect them to mug up. Again, it was Swami Vivekananda who said something. He said, communication is nothing but connectedness, interconnectedness. And he said something that's very important today. He says, interconnected, networking, building a brand, creating awareness, sharing, and goodwill generation. Which do you think is not important today? All of them are extremely important. The media and the scientists must get interconnected. The media must have network. The scientists must have network to reach out to a greater mass. Build a brand so that people watch. Create awareness. Share your knowledge in a language they understand, and it will generate a lot of goodwill. Now, communication, as we know, is public speaking, articulation, fluency, accent reduction, and language. Now, I want to ask this simple question. Do scientists get a training on how to write for the layman? Are scientists taught communication skills? Are they taught about the treatment? Now, when I use the word treatment, I really mean this. A potato is a potato unless you boil it. And that is a treatment. And when you serve that boiled potato with a little bit of salt, it tastes better. When you fry that potato, what happens? You're just giving it a different treatment, adding value to it. And adding value is something that Swamiji did many, many years ago. He said, use the magic lantern to teach. And that magic lantern of today is the television or even the class or whatever we are doing today. Now, media is the biggest source of science information, but that is not science education. Science education is a completely different genre. The perception of science is all maths. Science is only for scientists. Very, very difficult. Oh my God, science. We need to analyze science, find out scientific findings, find its implications, ramifications, social impact, political impact, and strategic impact. Now look at the photograph here. It's Louis Armstrong on the moon. We all have seen it, we all know about it. But how many of us know of the science and technology that went behind it? How many of us know about its implications, its applications, its ramifications, the social impact, the political impact, and the strategic impact? Virtually the world changed after that. After simple landing on the moon, which was not so simple, the whole world actually changed. And that is the role of a science reporter. A science reporter watches very, very carefully and then describes it in a simple language to the mass. There's a dilemma between the science and the media. And what exactly is the dilemma? The dilemma is in science, especially, we sometimes have to argue with editors, pound the table, and say, this is an important story. It turns a key of understanding. It affects a lot of people. Or it's just interesting. It's part of the unfolding romance of science. But we have to make that clear in our copy. We have to almost overstate. We have to come as close as we can within the boundaries of truth to a dramatic, compelling statement. A weak statement will just about go nowhere. The boundary of truth, you wish you had been a little more muted. If you had been muted, the editor would say, why are we running this story at all? Science, relatively speaking, is allotted much lower priority compared to other aspects of news. Politics obviously takes priority, in our country at least, over science. And why is that? The reason is very simple. The science and the media fail to handhold all the time. In journalism, the trick is to get as strong as possible lead and story theme without going overboard and being absurd so that you destroy yourself. There is always this tension of what is the strongest thing I can say about this story and still have it accurate. Now, how do you make it catchy? You need a title to start with. So what you do, you start scratching your head. What is the most catchy title that will be most attractive and draw the audience? The general trend and perception is you start thinking and then you pick up the phone and talk to your friends or meet some friends, and then both of us end up with thousands of suggestions without one being catchy. Why is that? Now, here also science comes in. Here, a different kind of science comes in, the science of communication. People who have specialized in communication, who know how to say, they are the people who can say. When you go to a teacher who gives you GAN, he'll talk about, the theory of writing, and he'll talk about the theory of presentation and this theory and that theory. And then you'll say, too much of GAN. Oh my God. So what is the way out? The way out is to go the simple way, like you go to a club in the evening. Why not a science club? Now, what exactly is a science club? Is it a science club where people come to learn? No, they don't. They come for fun. But if you can make fun to learn, they will learn. So the concept of a science club. Now, science club also, the look and feel of the science club has to be created. You just can't say it's a science club and where, you got to come on a scientific bent of mind, only scientists can come in. No, that won't work. So after school, the science club. This is something that's again a creation of a creative class of people, the communicators, the people who create logos. Please study the logos here. None of them are very serious. What you see also is the use of colors. They are all extremely attractive in color. They have used complementary and supplementary colors. They have made them attractive. The designs are such that it draws the attention of the young. Now look at this. Here are some universities, for instance. Okay, the whole thing is to go simple. And if you study, you will notice this. In 1965, Warwick University's the symbol, the logo, was quite complicated. In 2015, it's so simple on the right-hand side. Everyone can see it's Warwick. Excuse me. Okay, sorry. Look at FMCG products. Look at Apple. Now, we scientists use computers. In 1976, that was the logo of the Apple computer. In 2010, it became very simple. Pepsi Cola, in 1898, it was quite complicated. In 2014, they changed it to a simple logo. So we also need to change with the time. We should be open-minded to change and move with the time. Unless we can afford to move with the time, we will get lost. There are simple things that we must share. And that simple thing, like in India, we have the jugaad. There's a lot of science and technology behind all those jugaad. Now, can we use these simple examples to teach science? These are very simple things that happen in day-to-day lives. Is it possible for us to use these as examples so that a common person can understand, and then they will understand what is science? They'll get interested in science. Now, science education began in India quite early. In the mid-70s, people in the power realized the power of television as a tool of education. The SITE project was launched. ATS-6 satellite was launched from Cape Carnival. In 1975, SITE was launched. The ISRO website mentions this, the satellite instructional television experiment, hailed as the largest sociological experiment in the world during the 1975-76. This experiment benefited around 2 lakh people, covering 2,400 villages in 6 states, and transmitted development-oriented program using American's technology satellite ATS-6. The credit of training 50,000 science teachers in primary schools in 1 year goes to SITE. Now, that's a unique achievement when you read it. But you need to go behind the scene. What happened behind the scene? Mr. P.V. Krishnamurthy took over as the Deputy Director General of Television in May 1974. Within a week, he was asked to proceed to Cape Kennedy, Florida, to participate in the launch of the world's first direct broadcast educational communication satellite, ATS-6. I was told that on return, I have to organize a production of 1,320 hours of programs in 3 languages to be viewed in 6 states, utilizing 3 modestly equipped rooms, not studios. To say that I was shaking at the enormity of the challenge is a gross understatement. The viewers are ignorant, simple folks, and it is difficult to understand them. Often they are underestimated. The producers facing a daunting task with limited facilities. Mr. Shiv Sharma, who was then a producer, and this is what he narrated. We carry image perception tests. He was associated with the SITE project. Field cameras record the reactions of villagers. We do informative programs. Health and hygiene are the most popular. Increasing crop yield is equally popular. In community TV sets, 60 to 70 villagers often watch a program, all statistically excellent. But here is an example. For a hygiene program, Mr. Sharma waits with his cameraman in the studio for a fly to sit on a sweetmeat. The idea is to show that if one eats that sweetmeat, he will fall sick. After waiting for hours, he sees a fly. The fly sits on the sweetmeat. The cameraman goes for a big close-up. All is happy with the film. The villagers, however, don't get the message. When asked, the villagers don't see anything unusual that can make them fall sick. Asked why, they consult and reply that they don't have such huge flies in the village. Our flies are very small, so much so for the big close-up. It is out of sight, out of mind. The great lessons that India learned has been lost. By and large, studies have proved that India needs such a satellite program. Unfortunately, we seem to have learned nothing and remember nothing. The Ariane passenger payload experiment, Apple, was an experimental satellite launched by ISRO in 1981. It was used for relay television programs and radio. Gyan Darshan was launched. The content came from government agencies, various government agencies. So the educational treasure was telecast to the people and people in position proudly talked of the vast achievements. But how many were aware of Gyan Darshan or had the opportunity to watch? A well-researched book by Bhibhuti Ramachandran says only 48% of IGNOU's own students were even aware of the existence of Gyan Darshan. The reasons given by most of the cable operators for not providing the channel were either that they were unaware of the channel's existence or that they saw no point in providing such a channel at the cost of others, most popular channels. Gyan Darshan is indeed the channel that no one watches, as some officials put it. Today, we have 32 DTH channels of Swayamprabha. I don't know how they are doing and what they are doing. Now, let's go back a little to our Indian history and mythology. Today, we teach, the process of recycling. If we look back a little, and why look back, even look today, we see this. And it doesn't need any explanation. Isn't this recycling? And this recycling is very, 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 very old. Now, we know what this is. This is a symphony orchestra. And the Western world, sound engineers and sound recordists, they have divided it into three classes: the string, the wind, and the percussion. Thousands of years ago, we had this, didn't we? Didn't we have this? And didn't we have this? String, wind, and percussion? We were well ahead. But we failed to see because the British did not want us to see. Now, for instance, this. What exactly is this? Oh my God, what can it be? Let's see this. Another something that's baffles all of us. Or this. As you enter this complex, you see this. And you see this. And guess where this is? This is CERN, CERN, the largest nuclear project. Science is here too, thousands of years old. What can we teach from here? Not only archaeology, structural engineering, handling of massive sculptures, instruments, but something else. The pose, the meditation. Meditation that we have been talking about. Now, unfortunately, because of the long British rule, we don't look at our achievements. We look at what the Western world tries to show us. But the Western world has accepted us, they are using us. Meditation in Time magazine front cover. Yoga, Time magazine front cover. And Mind and Body, Time magazine front cover. Not today, years ago. Scientists sought the Dalai Lama's idea of studying meditation. Our scientific lives have been deeply affected by these interactions with His Holiness, says Richard Davidson, director of the Keck Laboratory of Functional Brain Imaging and Behavior and a UW professor of psychology. This dialogue has motivated us to vigorously pursue research on contemplative practices because we believe it can be beneficial. We hope eventually to take techniques involved in various kinds of meditation out of the Buddhist context and apply them to secular training that may improve mental and physical health. There is, in fact, one full issue of Time magazine with photographs which shows various EEGs and ECGs being taken on His Holiness the Dalai Lama while he was going into meditation. Let's go into something simpler. Let's go into sports. Now, is there a science here? Of course, science is there in every sphere, in sports too. But even in stadiums. Now, most of our stadiums are north-south. Have we ever questioned why old stadiums were east-west? In olden times, the Mayans had their ball game or chariot tracks running from the sun to the moon, east to the west, not from north to the south. There must be some reason. Wouldn't it be a lovely story if we can do a documentary on this? The Mayans, 4,000 years ago, they had writing, positional system, and counting in 20s because we gave them the zero. Developed an almost perfect calendar, new solar year and lunar months. The period of revolution of Venus could predict eclipse, had developed agriculture and medicinal plants. Just the study of this calendar would make a lovely documentary. Now, this is interesting. On the left is a man, Sir Hiram Maxim, the inventor of machine gun to kill people. On the right is a man who tried to avoid bullet, fled from Russia, Nikola Tesla. One a great inventor, another one of the greatest scientists. And they had again something in common. And they had this gentleman in common. What did they want to discuss? You know, Swamiji discussed energy and mass with Nikola Tesla. Till 10 years later, it was mathematically proved by none other than Albert Einstein. And it is all on record. Swamiji was an intuitive scientist. Let's see something else in sports where you can really popularize science. This is in Sao Paulo, one of the largest football museums of the world. And it tells you the evolution of the football. And then scientifically describes the shots that you take, why and how it happens, with movement, with scientific analogy, with scientific explanation. You know, this evolution of boots, for instance, how and why did it happen? Why did the shape of the ball, the stitchings change? All those are interesting sciences, not sports. The science behind the challenging football designs could be a wonderful episode. Again, coming to Swamiji. First of all, our young men must be strong. Religion will come afterwards. Be strong, my young friends. That is my advice to you. You will be nearer to heaven through football than through the study of Gita. These are bold words, but I have to say them, for I love you. I know where the shoes pinches. I have gained a little experience. You will understand the Gita better with your biceps, with your muscles a little stronger. You will understand the mighty genius and the mighty strength of Krishna better with a little of strong blood in you. You will understand the Upanishads better and the glory of the Atman when your body stands firm upon your feet and you feel yourselves as men. Thus, we have to apply these to our needs. What he also meant is what Krishna told Arjuna: be a professional. If you are a professional, behave like a professional. Taking advantage of our weakness. This is what has happened to our country and our media. In almost 90% of our television channels in late night, you will find astrology and Vastu and all those things where people the fortune tellers come and tell you about future. They also tell you that wear that stone or wear that root or whatever, buy that from that shop, and then, good things are going to happen. The question is, even Donald Trump have been predicted. Okay, let's see what happens. We'll wait and see still. Now, is there a science behind these predictions? Are these credible? Can these be accepted as scientific truths? Now, these are questions that only a scientist can answer, and a media can take those answers to the public. Here comes a role of a teacher. A teacher is not just education. A teacher is education plus research and understanding. A positive home or a positive school environment makes students feel safe and secure, far from fear. If a student has a negative vibe or fear or dislike a teacher, it will affect their attitude towards a subject. Essential to use different teaching methods, that is, different formats, different treatments, different styles. Love nature, knows students' learning styles, bring lessons to life with real and keeps abreast of world experience. Media is communication, teacher is diffusion, science is awareness and new boundaries. I'll tell you a story. There's a gentleman called Ladli Mohan Mitra. He passed in those days in third class MSc. He applied to Presidency College. He was rejected because third class MSc. He joined another college, Bangabashi College, but he was such a great teacher that students from all colleges thronged to his classes. It became an embarrassment, and Presidency College wanted him to come and join. His reply was simple: I'm still a third class MSc. Now, this gentleman you all know, Shoten Bose. He applied to Dhaka University. He was rejected because he didn't have a PhD. But the Vice Chancellor had to come and personally apologize, and then he joined because his recommendation letter came from none other than Albert Einstein. And we all know about the Bose-Einstein theory. Here is another unheard of king, the creator of first test tube baby in India. Unfortunately, our Subhash Mukhopadhyay had to commit suicide because of ridicule by his fellow scientists, gynecologists, and even the government. But many years later, his research was studied and found that he truly was the creator of the first test tube baby. I'm privileged that on the day that he gave birth to a test tube baby, I had the opportunity of interviewing him. Now, being a media person and essentially from television, I have to share this hard truth with you. The days of television is over. We have to move. We have to move. People on the move are watching. We have to reach them. Just television is not just enough. We have to move in a way by which at home I can watch on television. When I'm on the move, I can see it on my mobile phone. And Time magazine came out with this cover story where they said that the days of television is all over. Now, we have certain things in India. We have something called the mobile phone. And we have a lot of illiterates. But the illiterates watch telephone and they also watch cinema. We have 1.1 million mobile phones in India. With 1.5 gigabytes a day, rural India is watching on mobiles. Mobile phones are used even in very remote villages. Why can't we effectively use this? And we know the power of the social platforms. Governments even have fallen. We had something called Facebook reporters. We are all aware of all this. Aren't we aware? Then why can't we use the social media and the mobile phone to take science to the public? To science to where it is needed. To science to the people in the rural corners, in their local language, in their local dialect, in a language they will understand, in a style they will understand. And today, if you study this graph very carefully, you will notice that rural India is ahead of urban India insofar as internet use. School going kids, young men, college students, rural India ahead of urban India. Okay? Isn't that something very, very positive and something we should really be proud of? You know, the digital highway has transformed India. It was a vision of our Honorable Prime Minister to take the digital route, and it has paid a great dividend. It has taken us to the world platform. And today we are on an even level playing football ground where we can play equally. Science moves, media must move too, with time. We can't remain stagnant. A stagnant river is a dead river. A stagnant pond is where mosquitoes breed. And we have dengue. So we must move. We must move with the time. We must use the latest technology. We must use the latest science. And we must use the latest communication tools. And in a language, in a style, with a treatment, so that it becomes interesting. So that a common person can find interest, gain from it. Young people need to find something from which they will get ideas to earn money. It is not possible, it is absolutely impossible to give job to everyone. We must create our own jobs, become self-employed. And that is the role of the science communication. And that is
Sir,
exactly what Vigyan
sorry to
Prasad.
disturb you, sir.
Yes, please.
So as the time is getting over, so
I finished. I have finished.
okay, sir.
I have
So
finished. So, whatever it is, yeah.
thank you very much, sir. It was a very bold uh, observation which you had made. You said that this is the end of television era. The television is over now.
It's not
It
my
will
saying
be.
actually. It's a truth.
And yes, yes, sir. It's a very bold but bitter truth, like yes, the television is getting over. People are moving more and more into the movable device on mobile,
Yes.
yes, you were saying. And even I myself also want to see whatever I used to see on the TV. Nowadays I am watching it on my mobile phone, even the talks and even movies while I'm coming to office or all these things. So your observation is absolutely correct that the
Also, if
television
I may,
days.
also if I may add, the
Yes, sir.
highest viewed Netflix programs are the science programs.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can see that the biggest viewers which today any TV channels or are having is Discovery or National Geographic or these kind of things which are aiding the scientific programs on. So yes, we have to carry miles, and there is a huge demand of good scientific programs in India also. We are seeing a transformation in the pattern of the how films and documentaries are coming into India. It's slow, but yeah, it's slow and steady, and we hope that
Credit obviously goes to Vigyan Prasad. The credit goes to Vigyan Prasad. I think they are
uh,
moving in the right direction, and I'll give the credit to Dr. Nakul Parasar.
yeah, certainly, sir. It's our humble effort with the help of people and persons like you. We hope that we will certainly achieve the goal which Vigyan Prasad stands for, and that is promoting the scientific temper in the general people, in the masses of India. So,
And we can create job.
thank you very much.
It's not just science. I would say what we
Sir,
can do is we can solve the unemployment problem also.
yes, certainly, sir. Uh, uh, Again, thank you very much for taking your
My pleasure.
precious
My
time
pleasure.
and becoming part of this master class. Thanks again. Thanks, Nimishji, for Sri Abhijit sir to us. Friends, this was the end of the first master class, and very soon we will go with the second. So see you here, and then please do join us in the second master class in 10 minutes duration. Thank you, Abhijit sir. Thank you,
Thank
Nimishji.
you. Thank
Bye,
you.
sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.